Have you ever seen a woman leave behind a stable relationship, a job, even her own beliefs, just to chase after a man? It sounds extreme, right? But I'll tell you something most guys never figure out. Women are far more emotional than logical when it comes to choosing a man. When a woman feels something rare, when a man touches a deep, primal layer of her psychology, she'll do things that seem irrational from the outside. But from her perspective, she's never felt more alive, more certain, more pulled. And here's the truth nobody teaches us growing up. The men who trigger that kind of response in women, they're not necessarily the richest, the tallest, or the best looking. They're the ones who understand what women respond to emotionally. Now, what I'm about to show you in this video is not pickup lines. It's not manipulation. This is about authentic male power. The kind of power that makes women say, "I don't know what it is about him, but I can't stay away." This is based on real-world psychology, field-tested methods, and the seductive principles taught by masters like Strauss, Mystery, Robert Greene, and even evolutionary biologists who've studied human mating behavior for decades. So if you're tired of chasing women, if you're done feeling like you have to prove your worth, stick around. Because once you understand this, the game flips. She'll be chasing you. Let's start here. Most guys think attraction is about what you do, what you say, how you look. And yeah, those things matter, but not nearly as much as the energy you embody. See, women don't fall for your resume. They fall for how they feel around you. So when you walk into a room, what energy do you bring? Are you the kind of man who needs validation, or are you the man who makes others feel validated simply by being in your presence? This is where the concept of the primal masculine frame comes in, something Strauss touches on subtly in the game, but which is the backbone of natural seduction. Let me break it down. A man with a primal frame doesn't get rattled. He's not trying to get something from a woman. He's simply enjoying himself, grounded in his own reality. That alone makes him magnetic. Here's an example. There's a story from the seduction community that's become almost legend. A guy, not particularly handsome, not rich, walks into a bar in Vegas. He orders a drink, leans back, and just watches the room like he owns the place. No flashy moves, no cheesy pickup lines. He doesn't chase anyone. Within 20 minutes, 2 women approach him. Not because he did anything, but because of how he made the room feel. The air around him said, "I'm complete. You're welcome to join, but I don't need you." That's primal frame. Now, here's what's wild. Most guys can't hold that frame for more than a few minutes. Why? Because they're trained to perform, to seek approval. They're in their heads, not in their bodies. But when you learn to operate from your core, when you learn to radiate presence instead of performing tricks, everything shifts. Women feel it immediately. They may not even know why they're drawn to you, but they'll feel pulled, intrigued, even a little off balance in the best possible way. Because you're not reacting to them, you're not trying to impress them, you're just there. Calm, centered, free. And in a world of men who are desperate for attention, that stands out like fire in the dark. But here's the kicker. If you want a woman to risk everything for you, her comfort, her routine, even her sense of control, you have to offer her something no average man can: emotional elevation. Now let me explain what that means. Most guys offer women safety, approval, predictability. Sounds good, right? But women don't fall in love with predictable. They fall in love with experiences, with emotional highs, with moments that feel like a movie. And that doesn't mean you have to be dramatic or fake it. It means you offer depth, tension, mystery, playfulness, contrast. You're not just safe, you're exciting. You're not just grounded, you're unpredictable in your charm. You know when to tease, when to pull back, when to escalate, when to go silent, when to hold eye contact for just a beat longer than feels comfortable, because you're not afraid of tension, you thrive in it. This is something Robert Greene refers to as strategic boldness in the art of seduction, the ability to create emotional moments that stick in her mind. Comfort makes you a friend, emotion makes you unforgettable. Now I want you to notice something. Everything we're talking about here, it's not about being fake. It's not about wearing a mask. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about stripping away the false self, the needy self, the self that tries to impress and pleases out of fear. What women respond to, what they risk everything for, is a man who is fully expressed, who isn't apologizing for his desires, who isn't filtering himself to be liked. That's the kind of man who becomes a reference point in her life. Even if she walks away, even if she tries to forget, she won't, because he woke something up inside her that no one else had the courage to touch. And that's exactly what you're going to learn to do in the next section. We're going deeper into the psychological triggers that make this work. We'll talk about anticipation, scarcity, reward cycles, and emotional pacing, how they bypass logic and speak straight to a woman's subconscious. But before we get there, ask yourself this. When a woman meets you, does she feel like she's meeting another man or entering another world? If the answer isn't clear, don't worry, that's exactly why you're here. Here's where most men fail, and they don't even know it. They think if they're nice enough, consistent enough, always available, always texting back, always showing interest, she'll eventually see how good they are and reward them with attention, affection, and loyalty. But what they don't realize is that the human brain isn't wired that way, especially not the female brain when it comes to attraction. See, female desire thrives on contrast, on unpredictability, on surprise. And one of the most powerful psychological triggers that keeps a woman hooked, one that's backed by behavioral science, is intermittent reward. Let me explain. In psychology, there's something called a variable reward schedule. Casinos use it, social media apps use it, and whether they know it or not, dangerous lovers use it. It's when rewards come randomly instead of consistently. And guess what? That kind of inconsistency wires the brain to crave more. It's exactly why slot machines are addictive. You don't know when the reward is coming, so your brain keeps trying obsessively. Now, apply that to human behavior. If you're always available, always predictable, always saying the same things, giving the same attention, there's no thrill, no mystery, no chase. But when you mix it up, when sometimes you're playful, sometimes serious, when sometimes you're available and other times you vanish into your purpose, when sometimes you're affectionate and other times calm and reserved, you keep her guessing. You become uncomfortable to her comfort zone, and that's where obsession begins. Now, don't confuse this with being toxic. We're not talking about manipulation. We're talking about emotional contrast. Think about it. Every great love story, every powerful movie romance, it's never smooth, is it? There's tension, there's conflict, there's a push and pull. Why? Because that's what makes the connection unforgettable. If you want her to risk everything, she has to feel like she's part of something intense, something unique, something she can't find anywhere else. And that's your job as a man who leads emotionally, to take her on a ride, to show her moments of deep connection, followed by space to miss you, to bring her high, then make her reflect. To flirt with danger while making her feel safe in your presence. This is what creates emotional anchoring. Let me break that down. When you consistently generate intense emotional moments, whether it's laughter, tension, silence, eye contact, or even a slight feeling of jealousy, you begin to anchor those emotions to you. So whenever she feels that emotion again, she thinks of you. Even if she's with someone else, even if she tries to move on, you become the reference point her heart comes back to. Robert Greene calls this the emotional imprint. Neil Strauss described it as the story she tells herself at night when she's alone. You're not just a guy she dated. You're the guy who made her feel something she never felt before. Now, one of the most underrated weapons in your arsenal to build this kind of power is silence. Let me explain. Most men talk too much. They over-explain. They try to impress with words. They fill the air because they're uncomfortable with space. But silence is a seducer. Because in silence, the mind wanders. It questions. It projects. And when you hold silence with calm presence, when you can simply look at her without needing to say anything, you're showing something most men don't have: self-control. And nothing turns a woman on like a man who has full command of himself. It tells her, you're not reacting, you're choosing, you're not chasing, you're watching. And the paradox is that makes her want your attention even more. It creates suspense, and humans are addicted to suspense. So instead of filling the space, own it. Instead of telling her what you're about, show her in your energy. Hold eye contact without blinking. Pause after she says something instead of rushing to respond. Smile with mischief instead of explaining your intentions. Let her lean in. Let her wonder. Because every time she has to wonder, she's investing. She's thinking about you. She's replaying moments. And that is how obsession grows. Now here's another layer almost no man uses correctly. Scarcity. And I'm not just talking about time or texting. I'm talking about emotional availability. You see, when a woman senses that your deepest emotions, your real essence, are not freely given, that they have to be earned, she values you more. She respects you more. She gets curious about what's underneath your calm exterior. She begins to project her own desires into that mystery. Why? Because women fall in love not with what they see, but what they imagine. Let me say that again. Women fall in love not with what they see, but with what they imagine. And the more selective you are with what you reveal, the more powerful her imagination becomes. But this only works if you're grounded, if you're not acting out of fear, if you're not faking distance but instead truly living in your purpose, because your purpose is what creates emotional polarity. She feels she can't control you, that you're not hers yet, that you're focused on something bigger than her. And paradoxically, that's what makes her want to be part of your world. Because here's a truth most men ignore. The more available you are to a woman emotionally, the less she values you. But the more she has to earn your presence, your validation, your intimacy, the more meaningful it becomes when she gets it. Think about the last time you really valued something in your life. It probably wasn't something handed to you easily. It was something you earned, something that took time, risk, effort, investment. That's human psychology, and it applies just as much to relationships as anything else. So don't rob her of the joy of pursuit. Let her work for your attention. Let her feel that your presence is a reward, not a given. That's not ego, that's respect for yourself and for her feminine energy. Because deep down, she wants to feel that tension. She wants to feel like she's earning access to a man of value. And when you give her that feeling, she'll start to question everything else in her life, her current relationship, her job, her identity, her own rules. And yes, she'll risk everything to be around you. Not because you manipulated her, but because you awakened something in her that nothing else could. There's something every seductive man masters, but it's rarely spoken about in explicit terms. Your presence when you're not present. Sounds strange, right? But think about it. The most unforgettable men, the ones women replay in their minds, dream about, compare others to, they're not the ones constantly texting or always around. They're the ones who leave echoes. And one of the ways they do that is through nonverbal imprinting. Let me explain. When you interact with a woman, she's not just paying attention to your words. In fact, your words are often the least important part. She's absorbing your posture, the way you breathe, the way you occupy space, the tension in your eyes, the rhythm of your movements, the energy between your pauses. Because women are biologically wired to pick up on subtle emotional cues. Evolution trained them to detect confidence, status, danger, certainty, and depth, not from speeches but from signals. So what are you communicating when you say nothing? When you sit across from her, is your body relaxed or clenched? Do your shoulders lean forward with neediness, or are they pulled back with calm dominance? Are your eyes darting around the room, or are they slow, intentional, resting on her like you own the moment? These things matter more than you think, because they create a felt experience. And humans don't remember facts, they remember how they felt around you. That's why you can say all the right things and still get ghosted, or say very little and be unforgettable. It's not about volume, it's about vibration. Now here's where it gets even deeper. The story she tells herself about you, who you are, what you represent, what your energy awakens in her. That's what builds long-term attraction. So you need to seed that story. Not by telling her who you are, but by living it. You don't say, "I'm a man with depth." You reveal layers slowly with self-control. You don't say, "I'm a man with purpose." You vanish for 3 days because you were locked into your craft and didn't even think about your phone. You don't say, "I'm confident." You hold eye contact when others break it. You smile when others seek approval. You're still when others fidget. That's how stories are built. And women crave stories. They want to feel that meeting you changed something, that you're not just another man, but a pivot point in their life. That's why the most seductive men build a narrative gravity around them, a pull, a presence that makes women want to stay close just to figure out who they really are. But you can't fake that. You have to be that. And that requires one thing most men avoid their entire lives: inner work. If your inner world is chaotic, needy, reactive, it leaks through your body language, through your voice, through your silence. But when you've done the work, when you've faced your insecurities, stepped into your mission, refined your values, you don't have to prove anything. You just walk into a room and people feel it. That's the energy women will risk everything to be around. Now let's add another layer: emotional pacing. This is where most men get overly excited when a woman shows interest. They match her pace, or worse, they try to accelerate it. But real seduction happens when you control the tempo. You create moments of intensity, then let them breathe. You kiss her passionately, then pull back and smile, letting her feel the tension build again. You share something deep, then go quiet, letting the weight of your words linger in the air. You escalate the vibe, then change the subject with playfulness, creating curiosity and contrast. Why? Because women fall for the space between the notes. They don't want a straight line. They want a dance, a flow, a rhythm. They want to feel like you're leading the moment, not just reacting to it. This isn't about games, this is about masculine leadership in energy. And the more you master pacing, the more she feels like you're sculpting the moment with intention. The more she loses track of time with you, and when time becomes fluid, emotions become deep. Now here's another weapon in your arsenal that few men ever develop: emotional diversity. Most guys operate in narrow emotional bands: happy, horny, or anxious. But the men women obsess over, they take her on a spectrum. They know how to be silent and intense, then playful and teasing, then serious and philosophical, then dark and mysterious, then light and humorous. Why is this powerful? Because she never feels like she's figured you out. And humans crave what they can't fully understand. Each new layer you reveal builds intrigue. Each shift in tone makes her lean in. And as she experiences these different versions of you, she feels like she's unlocking levels. That triggers dopamine, curiosity, and emotional bonding. In fact, studies show that emotional variability in relationships builds stronger attachment than even physical intimacy. Why? Because it creates meaningful memory. So if you want to be unforgettable, if you want her thinking about you days later, wondering what made you different, you have to stop being one-dimensional. You have to become a symphony, not a single note. Now let me give you something tactical you can use immediately: the mirage effect. It's when you give just enough of yourself to feel real, but not enough to be fully known. You show moments of vulnerability, but they're fleeting. You tell stories about your past, but leave out certain key pieces that make her want to know more. You let her in, and then you go quiet for a day. This creates a psychological phenomenon called projection bias. She begins filling in the blanks with her own imagination. And guess what? When a woman builds your story in her mind, she invests more emotionally because she's co-creating the version of you that turns her on the most. And you become not just a man, but a mystery with emotional texture. That's what pulls her in. That's what makes her question everything else she thought she wanted. That's what makes her risk comfort, routine, even logic, for something she can't explain but can't ignore. You. You've made it this far, so let me leave you with this. Most men live their entire lives trying to earn love. They adjust, they overgive, they shrink themselves, hoping someone will finally see their worth. But the men women risk everything for, they operate differently. They don't try to earn love. They become men that command it. And that doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from doing the deep work, from learning how to lead your own energy, from stepping out of the role of the seeker and into the role of the chooser. You choose how you move, how you respond, how you show up, and the moment you start leading with that kind of grounded, unapologetic, emotionally intelligent masculinity, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop asking for permission. And suddenly women start noticing, not just because you're different, but because you feel real in a world full of performance. You become the man she can't forget, the one she feels pulled toward even when it doesn't make sense. And that's the essence of true seduction. Now, if this message hit something inside you, if you felt like I was speaking directly to you, it's not by accident. Because this content isn't for everyone, it's for men who are ready to upgrade who they are, not just to attract women, but to become powerful from the inside out. So here's what I want you to do. If you found value in this video, if something resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment below. Tell me what part hit hardest, what mindset shift you're walking away with, or simply type "I'm done chasing" if you're ready to flip the game. And most importantly, share this with a brother who needs to hear it. Let's build a movement of high-value men who lead with strength, depth, and emotional mastery. Because when more men step into their power, the whole world changes. And remember, she won't risk everything for a man who needs her. She'll risk everything for a man who doesn't need her but chooses her anyway. Now go be that man, and I'll see you in the next one.